Hello, it's Rachel at From Moments to Milestones, and we have a new card class, the Bunny Tails card class. We're going to make 3 cards. We've got a 3D card here, so sweet, happy Easter. We've got another bunny butt, happy spring, and sending Easter joy. So if you purchase a kit, you'll get instructions on all 3 projects and a list of all the supplies I used to create the kits. For this class, these are the inks I'm going to use. There's quite a few of them. Most of our die cuts were cut from white, so we're going to need to ink them. And then we're also going to use these as watercolor. So these are the colors here. I also have sponge daubers I'm going to use to put the ink on. You could also use blending brush, whatever your favorite method to do so is. And then I do have a watercolor pen that I'm going to use on these stamped images. So we're going to start with the 3D basket. Open the kit. And let's see if I have all my goodies in. Okay. All right, let's see. Let's start by inking up our die cut. So I'm going to look for all the pieces for the bunny. So you should have these pieces here get layered behind the paws with the opening. Okay, so you have 2 and 2. You'll have his bottom and his tail. And for these 2 solid pieces, I'm going to use spun sugar, and we're just going to put pink on there where it's going to show through. And I think that will do it. Let's see. Lay one on there, make sure. Yep, we'll be good there. And then for the pieces, he is just white, but I'm going to add a little bit of gray around the edges. I'm going to use Lost Shadow just to give him some dimension. So just lightly around the edges. I got a little heavy there, but that's all right. And the same for his paws. And I am going to leave his tail completely white just so it stands out a little bit more. I am going to go ahead and glue those paws or his feet onto the pink. All right, and so those bunny pieces are done. So I'm just going to stack those inside my craft stacks, and then I'm going to move on. You'll have 4 solid white eggs, and those are here. So we've got the 4 solid white eggs, and then you have 4 detail pieces. So you can use whatever colors you want. For these, I used a spun sugar for the lavender, milled lavender. And then we need tumbled glass and squeezed lemonade. So these are the colors I'm going to use. And I'm also going to pull out this Happy Easter banner because I made mine blue. You can make it any of these colors that you choose, but while I'm doing the blue egg, I think I'll do the banner as well. So let's start with the blue. These we're going to leave white, so, but we will glue them on to the solid. So this is the one, and these are kind of delicate, so you just have to be careful that you're not using too much pressure so you don't rip your die cuts. Right, so there's the blue, and then I'm also going to do the Happy Easter. All right, so that's the blue. I do have some, where is my rubbing alcohol? I don't see it. I'll just use water. Oh, there it is. It dries faster. And spray a little bit on my surface and get that ink so I don't mix colors. Because I'm going to go into the yellow next, and I don't want a green egg. So, all right. There's a little, and this color could be very bright, so I'm going to go kind of light on it, unless you want really bright. All right, so there's that. And then let's do, this one is purple with the leaves. And this is not attached on the one side, so you want to be really gentle with that. All right, and then this one here with the flowers, I'm going to do pink. All right. Get my ink pads out of the way. All right, so I'm going to let those dry a little bit before I glue them. And while we wait, I'm going to get out the frayed burlap ink or any brown ink. And we are going to kind of ink the edges of all of our basket pieces. Now you're going to see the back, which if you can tell, this is the front of the die cut. This is the back. So this is actually going to be that back piece because we're going to fold these in. So you don't really, you can ink this and then flip it over and do your inking on the back. And then I'm going to concentrate on these two pieces. This isn't really necessary. But this is larger, so you can use a dauber if you want. I'm going to use something bigger. Let me see if I have a blending brush somewhere. All right, so I'm just going to use this larger dauber here in the frayed burlap. So let's start with this piece. And I'm just really concentrating on the edges. A little in the center, just like so. And then this piece as well, I'm really going to darken up the whole thing. Okay. And this probably really isn't necessary because this piece goes on top, but I get ink on my fingers. I'm still going to do the edges. You'll see some of it show through, but you could not do this piece. You can tell it'll show through a little bit. All right, there's those three. And then on this one, I am going to get the handle on both sides. And then we're just going to go around the edges. And then you do have these fold lines there, score marks. And I'm going to fold them back and then get the edges like so. Do the same here. And then this edge, you don't have to get both sides, but I am going to get this one. Right, and then I'm going to flip that over and just get the handle. And you really aren't going to see any now. I mean, you can certainly do all the way around if you want, but I'm going to skip that. You're not really going to notice it. So bring that up. And then we have one last color. You're going to need the Shabby Shutters. And these two pieces are the layers, and you can see that we need to color that grass. So I also had you pull mold on. We're going to use that in another, I mean, you can certainly use them together if you want. This is a very true green color, and this is more of the pastel. And so I'm looking to concentrate on where you can see the grass. Oops. So here and here. Now, you can kind of see in there, so if you want to go in and add more, you certainly can. I'd say that's all you need. Oh, and then this one here. So you got the grass. All right. I think that's it for the inking. All right. Wipe my hands so I don't transfer ink anywhere. Okay. So let's layer up our eggs and then we'll be ready to put everything together. Right. All right, I've got my eggs layered, and now I'm going to add this Happy Easter to the white banner. So that's just going to go. Oh. Perfect. All right. So all those pieces are ready to go. So we are going to create our basket. So we folded those lines so we could ink everything. So you should be looking at it like this with everything folding into the middle. And our first layer in the back is going to be these, the eggs. So if you haven't already, go ahead and fold them back and score on the score line and then burnish those score marks. So we're going to look like that on both. And then here's what we're going to do. We want it, you can see they're evenly spaced. Okay. So we're going to lay this in front. Here's the score line here. I'm going to draw a pencil mark so you guys can see it. So this is the score line on the left side. Okay. And then I'm going to take this tab and I'm going to butt it right up to the score line. Okay. And it should, you want it to match on the bottom here. And it shouldn't make it hard to fold. Like it should be on this side, on the right side of the score line. So we're going to butt it there. Make sure it folds nice. Make sure it's layered or lined up at the bottom. Okay, so I've got it right where I want it. And now I'm going to put glue just on the white tab. So that's lined up. Okay, and I'm just going to fold that tab over on top and press. And then when I open it, now it is in line. Okay, and it's adhered. All right, so now we're going to fold it flat so you won't see the tab on the left side. You'll see it on the right. Okay. And now we're going to get this bunny butt and we're going to do the same thing. We want it to be right here. Oh, we can't fold it over. That's right. Okay, scratch that. So you've got this like this. You're going to fold this back. And you're going to butt it up like so. Okay, so it's going the other direction. And we're going to butt it up. But you also want to make sure that it's lined up at the bottom. So you could do it like this. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like when we're done. So I'm going to put glue just on the tab. And I'm going to lay, I want you to be able to see this. I'm going to lay this part flat. Okay. And it's going to line up, it's going to butt right up against and line it up on this piece here, making sure top to bottom it's lined up and it's butted up against that line. Okay. So now when you hold it up, you can see they're perfectly aligned. All right. So that part's easy. So before I go ahead and put the whole basket together, I'm going to put my images. It's going to be easier to put them on now. So let's see what I did here. We've got purple, yellow, pink, blue, and I popped up the yellow and the blue. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the purple. And it just gets lined up with that egg, like the lining of the egg. And since I'm doing the pink and purple flat, I'm going to go ahead and do those first. All right. And I'm going to get foam squares. Let's do, yeah, 2 will do it. I've got foam on the yellow, and then I'm just going to lay that down like so. Same thing for the blue. And that gets lined up out there. All right, so now my eggs are on there. And we'll fold this flap over. And the only thing we're going to need we won't need the legs yet, but we need his body, the part. I'm just going to glue that straight down. You can pop it up if you want, but I'm going to pop up his tail. We're just going to line that up. And then I'm going to need smaller foam for his tail. Oops. And then we're just going to line that up like so. All right. So there's that. So now to finish creating our basket, these pieces are all lined up. All right. So I'm going to get them where they're all lined up. Here at the bottom, I may need to reinforce the folds. Okay. And then I'm going to put glue on this tab and glue on this tab. And we're going to fold this piece over. And now you have your little 3D basket. So now we just need to glue the top pieces on. But before I put this piece on, let's go ahead and layer this up. So this detail piece of your basket is going to go on first. All right. And it lines up with the bottom of your basket. So you'll notice it's a little bit shorter. And that's going to give us the room for the top. And then this piece just lays over the top. You can butt it up to it like so. You can layer it on top because it's a little bit thicker. I'm going to butt it right up I'm just going to put glue on that part. All right, so there's the front of our basket. So I'm going to lay it flat, push it down, and then I'm just going to put glue on these tabs. And then we're going to lay down our basket on top, making sure it's straight. Looks good. And now when you open, you've got your cute little 3D bunny basket. So we're going to finish it off with a sentiment and his little feet hanging off. You can pop them up if you want. I just glued them flat since you've already got the dimension of it being far away. And so you can just eyeball those. Got one there. Oops. And one there. And then for my sentiment, I did pop that up. So I'm going to get some foam strips. All right. We're just going to finish that with the Happy Easter at the bottom of the basket. And our sweet little bunny basket is finished. All right, we're on to our next card, Sending Easter Joy. And let's start with the watercoloring because I think that will need some time to dry. So So you should have 2 bunnies and 3 little chicks, as well as paintbrush and a paint can. So we're going to start with those. I was looking for a little silicone. It'll just help hold them in place. All right. And then I just have, this is from the Dollar Tree in the teacher section. It's just a little white dry erase board, but I'm just gonna smush my colors on there, and they're there from the first when I made the cards, but I'm just gonna add some more so I have plenty. We've got green, this should be blue, and we'll need a little brown. So you need the green, pink, yellow, some brown for the paintbrush, not very much, blue, and gray for the bunnies. So I'm going to set this off here where I can get to it. And what happened to my bunnies? They're all, or my chicks, stuck to the back. All right. So I've got my watercolor pen ready to go. And then these are stamped on watercolor paper, Bristol Smooth watercolor paper, so they should take the ink just fine in the water. I'm going to start with the chicks, and I'm just going to go in with a light wash of the color. And then after it dries, I can come back in and add more color. And you can certainly speed along the drying process with the heat tool if you want. I am going to maybe just jump around and come back after they dry. I'm also going to color those little, I don't know what they're called, their little hair with yellow. I'm going to go back later with pink, also on their beak, and that should create an orange color. All right, that's it for the chicks. I'm also going to get a paper towel to clean my brush off on. So I'm just push the water through. All right, and then I'm going to move on to the paint can, which is gray. Some color down. And let's move on to the bunnies. So let's go ahead and just do the bunnies, the bunnies, like their body parts. My goodness. I'm just going to lay down some gray. Obviously, the less water you use, the more concentrated the colors. If you're looking for a more concentrated look, you can, if you have the re-inkers, you can use those, or just different watercolors altogether. And I like to put a light wash of color, and I really, I don't want them to be gray. They're really supposed to be white, and I'm just adding in shadows. All right, so a little bit more on his face. We'll let those dry. I'm going to go back to my chicks because they feel like they have dried, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to dry my brush off, and I'm not going to push water through, and I'm going to pick up yellow, and then I can get more concentrated color. Just like so. I'm going to do that again. All right, clean out my brush. And then I'm going to go in with pink, and I'm going to try to do a concentrated amount. And get those little thingies on the top of their head. And their beaks. And then if you want, I'm going to add some water, and I'm going to give them little pink cheeks. All right. So my little chickies are done. Where is my, I'm going to touch those. Move them out of the way. And then the paint can is still drying. This bunny looks dry. So I'm going to go in. I'm going to soften that up. So if you just go in and add more water, you can, if you don't like the marks that are left. And I'm going to go in with some darker gray and add some more shadows. One shadow there. There. All right. Let that dry. And let's do this bunny. I forgot his feet. All right. I think I left, you can add some to the tail. I think I might have left it white. And then my paint can's still drying. I'm going to go ahead and go, you have to be careful if it's like, that's still wet. So I don't want to paint because it'll grab the paint next to it if it's wet. So, or not the paint, the color. So if I try to go in here and color and this is wet, it might pull the gray in. So this feels dry. I'm going to go ahead and paint her little outfit pink. So water it down a little bit and add a layer. Oh, it keeps coming off my brush. And then as that dries, then I'll go in and add some darker. So I'll pick it up with not very much water, and then I can go in there, add some shadows. And I want my bow to be really dark pink, so I might have to do a couple layers. All right, let that dry. And then I'm not crazy about how dark this bunny's face is. So I'm going to go in and add water, and I'm going to take clean part of my paper towel and pick some of it up. It's just a little too gray for me. And I'll go in and soften that up. All right, that's better to me. Okay, I'm going to go in with some pink and give the bunnies some pink cheeks. All right. Let that dry one more time with the pink on the bow just to darken it up if I can. All right. So this little bunny is done. We need to finish this one and the paint can. So the paint is blue. I'm going to go ahead and add that. And then his little outfit is green. I don't know if from my paint palette sitting out, if it's collected dust, what all those little dots are in my paint. It's kind of all right. All right, I'm going to try to go in with dark blue here. Darken up the paint. And then, you know what there it is. I just realized I don't have my little paintbrush. So we need to do there we go. Now we're going to have to do that brown. Well, let's get paintbrush itself. I'm going to try to make it darker. And then I'm going to use that same brown on the bristles, just less of it. And I think I'm going to add a little shadow down here. I think we are done. Oh, I never added shadow to the paint can either. Let's do that. Okay, I feel like the painting is good, so I'm going to clean this off. Let's just set these apart over here to dry completely. And then we have some inking to do. All right, so we have a lot of the same coloring to do. We need to color all the detailed pieces of the eggs. There are 5 this time. You're going to need to darken up the basket with brown, and then the grassy parts with the shabby shutters, here, 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 and here. And then you also have this piece of grass at the bottom. You're going to need to do the entire section. So I am going to ink those up. All right, I've got the last 2 eggs here. All right, I've got the last 2 eggs here. We're going to use the tumble glass. And then this 5th color that I used is speckled egg. And it kind of matches that mint green in the gingham if you don't put too much. So light hand here. So I'm going to start with tumble glass. You could certainly use another color again, like have, you know, another pink egg over here or purple, whatever you want to do. But we're going to use this speckled egg. All right, I can get more of a teal. Now, I'm pretty sure that on my sample I used an oxide ink, so you can see it's a little bit different in color. If you want it more green, you could certainly probably add some more shabby shutters. That'll green it up a little bit. Yep, that works. All right. So now let's see, we need to do the green. So we'll get out this piece here and do the grass. And then you are going to see some grass in here peeking through. So you're going to want to do more than just those little grassy bits. But this time I'm going to get out a larger blending brush. These large ones from Pink Fresh. So that on this one here, it'll go on nice and even and not take forever. All right, so there's that one, and I am going to still do the little pieces here. I like that they get a little bit darker with the dauber. And we'll just do this part there. All right. That looks good. I am going to take, whoops, my dauber and just darken up the edges just to add some dimension. Okay. Clean that up. And then finally we need to do the basket. So you will need to, I'm going to take some long scissors. This is the same die that created the 3D basket. I'm just showing you here. You don't have to create a 3D basket. So I'm just going to cut on that score line. And now we can use it just as a basket. So let's go ahead and ink up the brown. Right. And then on this one, this is the front, so we're going to go around all the edges. And then we're going to do that piece here. We're going to darken up the whole piece. All right. That does it for the inking. So now we'll do some layering of our eggs and basket, and then we can put the card together. So let's get out our, I'm going to make sure my hands are clean. Okay. So let's layer up our eggs. All right, I've got my eggs layered up, so let's do our basket the same way. We're going to put the detail piece on top of the solid. All right, so there's the basket. And then this piece, this time I'm going to pop it up, but I'm going to hold off on that. So I'm not going to put this piece on yet, and because I want to pop these two up and I don't want that to be in the way. So if you're going to pop it up, you can put it on and let's just do that. That is how I did it. Where is my foam I already had out? Here it is. I'm just going to put foam on the two ends and I can add more. I'll put some here and here. All right, and then we'll stick that on. Then we'll have room to tuck those eggs in if needed. All right, so just like so. So let's get the rest of our card. So this piece is going to go here. Oh, if your piece is cut too long, which I think some of them were in class, you're going to want to glue this piece on first so you can trim the edges, or otherwise it'll go from edge to edge, which is fine too. I am just going to put glue on the bottom so I can tuck my basket in. So if you need to trim off excess, you can. I do not need to. And then this piece is going to go onto your card base. I need to refill my glue. Right. And it's just going to get centered. All right. And now we need our basket and this piece with the eggs. Now, this piece also has tabs on it. We're not going to need those, so we're going to cut those off. I'm just going to, here, just like that, trim those off. They're going to be behind the basket like so. So let's glue those 3 eggs on first, and none of them are popped up. So I've got my green egg and my blue egg and purple. And then I'm going to put glue down here. We're going to lay that behind the basket. Just like so. Okay. And then these 2 eggs we will pop up. So that way now they can tuck in there like so. On there. And one there. All right, so there's our little basket, so cute. And then we're going to tuck it in behind that grass and just glue it down flat. All right. Centered left, right, top to bottom. All right, we got our little basket on there. So let's add our characters. The Sending Easter Joy, I just have glued on to the edge of the basket, slightly hanging off. Like so. And then we've got this little guy sitting on top of that egg, and I am going to pop him up there like so. This little basket facing in is going to go right here. We're going to need to pop him up. I think I'm going to put, no, that should work. All right. And then we've got a little bunny down here, and a little chick in front. So the bunny is flat. And you can have room for this. bunny. And then I did pop up this one. Right in front. And then I did pop up this bunny as well. He's going to be right here. And he's holding a little paint can or a little paintbrush, which we're going to need to pop up. Put that in his hand. And then this little guy just going to get glued straight down. Just like so. And that card is finished. All right, we've got one final card here. Happy Spring. And let's start with some more inking. So we're going to need, you should have little flowers and leaves. We've got the bunny pieces. We're going to color those just like we did on the first card. And the sentiment. All right, so let's start with the bunny. So we're going to need the gray. Gray for his bottom and for the 2 feet with the holes in them. I just got marks on this. I'm gonna try to get some of the harsher marks off. I drug it through the ink. Oh, it's fine. He's just gonna have speckled feet. I'd have to copy the same thing. Drag it through. There we go. Now it looks the same. And then that's it for the gray. Let's clean up our space. And then we are going to need pink for his little feet and these flowers. So the flowers are on, they're super tiny. I just dropped my leaf. Let me grab that. All right. They are upside down on this Post-it tape because I just picked them off the cutting mat that way. So I'm going to flip them around and then use the tape to hold them while I ink them. All right, so there's the flowers, and then we're going to do the feet with pink. There's the feet. Flowers. And I like to give them a little variation and some darker spots just to add interest. So there we go. And let's do the leaves. So these, I'm going to bring out that silicone mat because it also kind of holds things in place. And we're going to do the green. And on this card, we're going to use both greens. So I'm going to start with the Shabby Shutters. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in just a little bit of the mowed lawn, just here and there. Just in different spots, just to add some interest. All right. There are those. And I think you have 6 of those. I may have only used 5, but all right. Now let's do, we need to do our green and our blue and our sentiment. So let's start with the blue, and this time I'm going to get back out that big blending brush for both of these. I do need to punch out the letters on mine. So you don't need to do the whole circle, probably about 2/3 of it. Right, that should be good. And let's do the Happy Spring. I'm not sure. Might be easier to use the dauber on that. Right. The spring and the sky. And then we need the green, and we got to do this whole panel this time. So I'm going to start by trimming off those right on the score line. Okay, so trim off those tabs. And then I'm going to use my larger blending brushes, and we're going to start with the lighter, the Shabby Shutters, and we're going to just go over the whole thing. I don't need to worry about where the bunny bud is. It's going to get covered. I do want to get the grass. So that looks good, but I am going to go in. I'm just going to use my dauber and the Mauve on and just ever so lightly around the edges. Whoa, that's really bright green. And just add a layer of the bright green. All right. Little goes a long way. That's quite a bit darker than what I did the first time. That's all right. Okay. So let's get our hands cleaned up and then we can assemble the card. We're going to start by adding this pink gingham to the white card base. And it just goes down in the center. All right. And then I popped this piece up, but this piece is flat. So I'm going to kind of get it behind there where I want it. And then I'm going to put glue on the back. And leaving room for my happy spring. I'm going to put it down right where I want it. And then that puts my little blue circle right where I want it. And I'm going to pop this piece up. All right, that should be good. All right, so let's put that piece down. All right. I wish that was up a little higher. Let's see if I can get that off real quick. Try that again. All right, so let's layer up. We need to layer up our sentiment and the bunny feet. So let's do all of that. Start with the sentiment. Oh my goodness. Sorry about that. Threw my whole glue press holder across the desk. Sorry about that. Okay. All right, and I'm going to put that on foam. And that is going to go at the bottom. All right. And then our little bunny butt can go on there. He's just glued flat. And then I did pop up the tail. So, and let's layer up the feet. All right, and so I did pop up those feet, so I'm going to flip those around. I'll foam on the back. His feet look a little dirty, like he's really been digging. Okay, so we're going to put one there. And one there. Okay. And then we're going to finish off with these little leaves and flowers. So I'm just going to lay them out where I think I want them. You can see by having the variation in color, it helps that they stand out a little bit. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I think I like that. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I really don't need, I think I'm just going to do the 5 like so. So let's glue those down. All right, so there's the leaves. I don't need this little one. And then we're just going to go in and add flowers. So I have 2 on this one here, one there, got one there. I'm just going to go put all my glue down. And then I can just stick them on. And these leaves and flowers, they came from the eggs. You have the egg with that had all the leaves in it, and one with all the flowers. These were the negative pieces that we used here to create the leaves and flowers. So that finishes that card. That does it for this card class. I hope you enjoyed this little taste of spring. Hopefully it's on its way soon. If you're interested in a kit, you can check us out at our website from momentstomilstones.com and search for card kits there. This is the Bunny Tails card kit. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you again soon.